And joining me now is Republican Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He's chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, and he's fresh off a visit to Asia. Senator Johnson, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you as well. Let me start with a Eurasia country first, and that is the state of U.S. Russia relations. On one hand, you can look at it and say, oh my God, this looks worse than the Cold War. On the other hand, if you just look on rhetoric with President Trump, he gets criticized because he seems like he has nothing negative to say about President Putin. Where do you characterize this? What's the real?
I wish Russia were no more than a friendly rival. But unfortunately, they're an unfriendly adversary. And it's been their aggression, their provocations that have really, resulted in a relationship that is not healthy for, the world, for world peace. Whether you start looking at their invasion of Georgia, Crimea, eastern Ukraine, what they're doing with Iran in Syria is not helpful. We need them to be working with us in terms of enforcing sanctions on North Korea. So we need to work with Russia. They have 7,000 nuclear weapons. So I understand the president's desire to try and improve relations with Russia, but you have to look at the reality situation and react accordingly as well.
Most Putin analysts, particularly Russian expats who have gone after him, whether you talk to Garry Kasparov, they'll sit there and say, he doesn't respect diplomacy. He respects strength.
Yeah, it's raw power.
And that President Trump has not punched him in the nose. I mean, to be blunt that way, and that's the only thing Putin respects. Do you buy that?
Putin is very opportunistic. Where he sees vacuums and voids, he's going to fill those. And, of course, Russia can do nothing in terms of improving the economic situation of, for example, Eastern Europe. All they can do is destabilize, and that's what they're doing. It makes no sense to me. I think a tragedy, historic tragedy, is really the transfer of power from Yeltsin to Putin, and then having Russia go down the path to trying to reconstitute the Soviet Union, as opposed to, for example, if it would have been Boris Nemtsov taking power, that we'd be in a totally different situation with Russia. It's a tragedy.
Does the West have the resolve to stand up to Putin right now?
We have to have the resolve.
I understand that.
We have to.
Right now, it doesn't look like we do.
No, I know, because their economic interests. I mean, you take a look at the Nord Stream 2 pipeline that Germany's trying to promote. That will just give Russia even more geopolitical power. It's ridiculous.
It is clear that the president, when we did retaliate on the Russians for what they did in the UK, he chose what was the medium response, leaving one tougher response later. Do you think he should have left that on the table, or should we get tougher with Russia now?
Long term, we have got to have better relations with Russia. We just do, and so you have to respond. I think the better way to respond is build up troop strengths in some of the Eastern European countries, in the Baltics, to make sure that Russia goes no further. That's my concern, is that they make some kind of move in one of the Baltic states.
Do you think the president's actions have anything to do with the Russia probe? That the way he talks or doesn't talk about Russia, that he's somehow influenced by what's happening with Mueller?
I have no idea.
Now, I mean, does that...
I have no idea.
Do you think he'd be in a better place if he would get tougher on Putin?
We as a world, as the Western democracies have got to show greater strength and resolve. And of course, what President Trump did is prod our European partners, and more of them are reaching their 2% spending in terms of NATO. So we do need Europe to step up the plate and help us work with Russia.
As a senator, you have to provide advice and consent on cabinet nominees. We have another opening, this time at VA, Veterans Affairs. Number one, Secretary Shulkin, should he have been fired? Did the president do the right thing?
Well, I think the IG report is pretty troubling. And you also, presidents do deserve and have advisors that actually agree with them on policies, and apparently there were some policy disputes.
So you think firing was justified?
But it's a completely thankless job. I mean, we've had some high-quality individuals in that position, and they haven't made a whole lot of progress in terms of reform.
Is that a reflection on what? Is that a reflection on the agency, the bureaucracy, or politics?
It's a reflection of the fact that the VA healthcare system is a government-run, single-payer, bureaucratic healthcare system, and it doesn't work. Senator Coburn, one of his last reports, talked about how the VA system, on average, the doctors have about 1,200 cases, and the private sector is about 2,300. We spend so much money on the VA, and we've increased funding overall about 2.3 times in the last 10 years, on healthcare spending 1.5, and it's still a mess.
What about the way it was done? This is the third person the president has fired by Twitter. Just in the last month.
This is not the way I do it.
I was just going to say,
the way I do it.
This isn't the way to recruit good people to replace them, is it?
It's not the way I do it.
You would understand if people were like, I don't know if I want to take this job.
I think the president does need to understand the effect it has on attracting other people.
And you think that this could lead to a brain drain? Are you concerned about that?
I'm concerned about all kinds of things, Chuck.
You seem to be hesitant. You seem to be hesitant with your criticism. You seem to be annoyed. You seem to be unhappy with how things are going and how he's handling some of these things. But you do hold back. Why?
I don't envy any president their task. We have enormous challenges facing this nation. I tried to work with President Obama in terms of making this country more prosperous, greater opportunity, reducing the debt and deficit. I want to see any president succeed in their prime mission of keeping this nation safe and secure. So it doesn't help to be overly critical of any president if you're actually trying to help them accomplish their goals.
Last October, you thought Special Counsel Robert Mueller should be fired.
No.
You thought he should be replaced.
What I've always said about it was the special counsel was named far too soon. I would have much rather had the Senate and House Intelligence Committees complete their report, because I know what happens when you have a criminal investigation. It's that much more difficult for Congress to get the information to allow the American public to understand what's happening. They're completely different goals of a special counsel versus congressional oversight. I think in this case, the most important thing is public disclosure, and that is harmed when you start having special counsels and all the information is gathered and is held close.
So what you're saying is
never disclosed.
You feel as if the congressional investigations have been hampered by a special counsel. And
yes.
The fact is neither one can be.
I think absolutely. And my concern with Special Counsel Mueller is he's so close to the FBI. You know, I've been conducting a 3-year investigation on the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton. I think we're starting to see some real problems there. And I just didn't think somebody so close, like Director Mueller, former Director Mueller, would be the right type of person to investigate that. Now, I'm actually pleased with the appointment of John Huber. He is a disinterested U.S. attorney to work with the Office Inspector General.
So you're okay with Jeff Sessions not appointing a special counsel?
I think that's actually the best case for the time being, because the Office Inspector General is independent of the agency. I think Horowitz has done a good job. Hopefully we will get his report in the next month. We've asked him to testify before our committee. I hope he does so as soon as that report is issued.
And where are you on Mueller right now? You think he should be kept in place, finish his investigation?
Yeah, again, I just thought he was appointed too soon. I would have rather had the process play out, because I think public disclosure, the public's right to know, trumps everything else.
All right, Senator Johnson, I'm going to leave it there. It's Easter weekend. I hope you enjoy the holidays.
I will. Same to you.